Hi guys, and welcome to my How I Got Into Notre-Dame video. So basically in this I'm just going to talk like high school stats and stuff like that and just give you like a picture of how I got into Notre Dame, like the things that I did. But obviously this isn't like representative of how like anyone in the past got into Notre Dame or how anyone in the future will get into Notre Dame, because the standards are like constantly changing. But I just know a lot of people like really like these kind of videos and like they find them interesting, so I'm gonna film one. So yeah, and it's also like basically just a way to like recap my high school, since I didn't make videos during high school, so I can always like go back and remember the things that I did like specifically in my accomplishments specifically. So it's also like part of my little scrapbooking that I'm doing on here. So yeah, this is my How I Got Into Notre Dame. I have a presentation because like it's like the most efficient way for me to like fill up this space and also like see the stats. So yeah, so first, just for reference, I'm half Mexican, half white, and I'm not a legacy to Notre Dame, which means like nobody in my family ever went here before I got here. My high school facts: my GPA in high school was a 4.4646, and I was ranked number 3 out of 734 students, and that was pretty consistent throughout my entire time at the high school that I went to. My freshman year, after the first semester, I was ranked number 7 out of a little more than 700 kids, and then the second semester, so in the spring at the end of my freshman year, I was ranked number 4, and I stayed number 4 until I believe it was either my junior or senior year, and then I moved up to number 3, and that's where I stayed consistently. I think that happened in the middle of my junior year, and then I stayed at number 3 consistently until I graduated. And I did that without taking any like high school credits in middle school, so all of my GPA was based on my grades from high school, which in my city, if you go to like a private middle school, it's easier to get some high grades for your high school credits at your middle school, but I went to a public school, so that wasn't the case for me. And then also just in high school, the kind of course load that I did was I was in IB, which is the International Baccalaureate program, which I might do a video on that too. I definitely think it's worth it if you're in it, and if you're thinking about doing it, then you should do it because it was definitely worthwhile, the skills that I learned within it. So I definitely would recommend IB, even though it's kind of a lot of work, but definitely worth it in the end. So I did pre-IB my freshman and sophomore year, and I took a couple APs in there, and then junior and senior year I did all IB with a couple APs as well where I could fit them in. So all of my grades were on a 4.5 or a 5.0 scale. So pre is on the 4.5, and then the AP or IBs were on a 5.0, and the only regular classes that I took that would have been on a 4.0 scale were cheer, which I took 8 semesters of because I did it all 4 years in high school, and then also I did a semester of health and a semester of speech, and those were regular because they didn't have AP options for them. The AP tests that I took were government, English language, which was English 4 for me, Spanish language, which was Spanish 4 for me, and then, but I know that's different across the states, but it was the language tests, not the literature ones. And then also I did human geo. I'm the oldest in my family, and didn't really know what I was doing at all, so I think it's definitely worthwhile to take more AP tests because it does give you more credit coming into college. I know a lot of people here, like, they obviously took a lot because they did AP classes. I did mostly IB classes, so I took more IB tests, but it definitely does cancel out a lot of things for you. Like, kind of wish I could have canceled out stats because then I would have only had to take like calc, but if I had canceled out both of them, then I would have just had to take like harder math. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't cancel them out. So I think it's really like, it's important for you to look into the schools that you want to go to and see what kind of credits they accept, because a lot at Notre Dame are just accepted to be electives, and if they do cancel them out, they don't cancel out like your core requirements, so you still have to take like one math class. Even if you canceled out stats and calc, like, you'll just have to take a more advanced math class. So I'm glad that I didn't cancel out mine necessarily, but there were things that I wish I like could have gotten out of the way a little bit sooner. So I think definitely look into your colleges a little bit more in advance. Again, I'm the oldest and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I didn't really do that, and I also didn't really know where I wanted to go for the majority of my high school career, so that didn't help. So I think definitely like look into your resources a little bit more. That would help. As far as IB goes, my SL tests were math, Spanish, and ITGS. So SL just means that you're in the class for 1 year, and it's a standard level test, which is basically comparable to an AP test because you're in the class for a year and you take a test on it. The difference between AP and IB is that IB is more writing based, so the majority of your test is not multiple choice. Like, you hardly have any multiple choice, if any. I know the bio test had multiple choice, and I don't even think my IT test had multiple choice. It's mostly just like writing, like fill in the blanks, write a paragraph, write essays, like that kind of stuff, whereas AP's like 3 or 4 short answers and then a bunch of multiple choice questions. College is definitely more writing based, so I think it is helpful to do IB, as I was saying, but it is helpful to also like be good at multiple choice. As far as HL test goes, I took biology, English, and history. That was pretty standard at my school. Those were the 3 HLs that most people did, so that's what I did as well. Those worked out really well. I got credit from those, but again, like, they just mostly counted towards my electives. Also, these aren't really things that like apply to my major because I'm a business major here at Notre Dame and the Mendoza College, which is a competitive good school. But yeah, so yeah, just again, I think IB was helpful though, so I'm glad I did that. As far as standard tests go, like the SAT and ACT, I submitted ACT scores. I got a 33 on the ACT out of 36, and then on the writing portion, out of 12, I got a 10, and if it's not out of 12, then I just got 2 minus, like whatever it is out of, but I'm pretty sure it's out of 12. But as far as Notre Dame goes, their average SAT, is usually around a 1480, and the average ACT is a 32 to a 35. So you can always Google those and see how they were for the year before you, because that'll probably be more representative of how you need to do in order to do well and get in here. But again, like, they aren't necessarily just looking at your test scores, they're also looking at how you did over high school, because high school shows like endurance of being able to perform well for a long period of time, whereas tests are just like a one and done kind of thing. So like, how you do in high school is really important. Test scores are also important, but most colleges look at more of a holistic approach, and I know that they do that here at Notre Dame too. They look at more of a holistic approach. They want to see like what you're involved in and how you can do well for a long period of time. As far as extracurricular activities go, I was really involved in cheer. That's something I've done since I was 8 years old, so going into high school, that was something I was really involved in. I was a captain for 3 years. I was on the competition team for 4 years, and then I was on the uniform selection committee for 2 years, and that's just something that like I really enjoyed. So it was a leadership position as well as like an extracurricular athletic activity that I did. Besides that, I also did student council. I was on my exec committee for my junior and senior class. I was also in FDA, which is Future Doctors of America, but I do not want to be a doctor, and I had absolutely no intention of being a doctor. I just did it because my friends were in the club, and it was during lunch, so I had to go eat with them at FDA. But besides that, I also did IB SAC, which was the IB Student Advisory Council, I believe it is, and I was the president of that. But it was basically, we just developed like policies for the IB program at my school, like if you drop, like you can't come back, and like stuff like that. And we planned like the freshman events, like for incoming freshmen to come like check out IB and apply to our magnet program, stuff like that. I was also in NHS, which is the National Honor Society, and then I also founded my own community service like project. It was called Crafting in Crisis, and basically what it entailed was every month I would go to a child crisis center within El Paso. And so I went to 2 of them, and I would do monthly activities with the kids there. So like for Thanksgiving we did like sock turkeys, for Halloween it was like painting pumpkins, like those kind of things. And I would go once a month, and I like did that on my own as a part of my IB CAS project. That's what inspired me to do it, but I really took the CAS project and went above and beyond, which if you're in IB, I also recommend you really take your CAS project seriously. A lot of people kind of just do like little blow off like community service project, but like CAS is a really great opportunity for you to get involved in your community and do something really great. So I think you should definitely take that and run with it, because it can help you a lot when you're applying to college. I wrote about my Crafting in Crisis project a lot, so it's definitely something that was helpful. And then just as I had said, leadership that I was involved in high school was cheer, and then my Crafting in Crisis, which I founded, and the IB SAC because I was president. So as far as my Notre Dame application goes, they have where my year it was like everyone answers one boilerplate prompt, and so for me that was this one, and then after that there are 2 prompts that I picked out of like several options, and then there was the essay that I submitted. So for this first like mandatory prompt, it was what excites you about the University of Notre Dame that makes it stand out from other institutions, and I just wrote about it being Catholic because I'm Catholic, but I had always gone to public school, so that's kind of what and I wasn't necessarily even looking for a Catholic school. I just was looking for like a good business school, so I wrote about that in this first one. And then the second one is, which you can also Google these, like I'm class of 2023. You can just Google like the 2019 like prompts and this should come up. It might be 2018, I'm not sure. I graduated in 2019 from high school, so I don't know. You do what you do with that information. This next one was basically they gave you this quote. It says, "Let us never do anything that makes another member of our community feel unwelcomed, and let us not stand by if we see others doing so. Either we walk together in mutual support or we do not walk at all. Either we are all Notre Dame or none of us are. Tell us about a time when you walked with others." So I wrote about this Out of the Darkness walk that I did, which it's basically like a suicide prevention / memorial walk. And it was up the mountain in my city, which is like part of Scenic Drive. It's like the specific road of the mountain that one was called. We walked up the mountain to like signify the struggles that people who are suicidal go through. And that was just an issue that like personally like relates to me. So it was something that I was really passionate about, and that's just what I wrote about in this prompt. My final prompt was, what is your proudest accomplishment for which you did not receive recognition? And for that I wrote about Crafting in Crisis because I did it as a part of like my IB curriculum per se, because it was like my CAS project, which was a project that I had to submit. But again, my CAS project was like a little bit more involved, so it was something that I was really proud of because I really like did go make an impact in my community, and something that like I did a lot of work for on my own. So it's something that like I really put my all into, but like not necessarily everyone does. So like not necessarily everyone really gets like acknowledged for it, because it's just kind of something that like you have to do because it's a part of the program. But I really just like went above and beyond, so that's something I like wrote about for this, because I just didn't get like, I wasn't like, oh, pat on the back, you know, I did it like because I wanted to. And then finally, like for my essay that was sent to like, it wasn't specifically Notre Dame, it's just the essay you upload into the college app. I wrote about, I can't remember what the prompt was, and I thought I had the essay saved on my other laptop, but I don't. But basically what it was just about, I think it was honestly even the one where it's just like a free-for-all like prompt. I just wrote about when I was younger, I used to be like really shy, like I wouldn't talk to anyone, not even my friends. But then as I grew up and like I went to high school, I went to a high school where I didn't know anyone, so that kind of forced me out of my shell a little bit more. And like on the inside I've always been like really outgoing, like with my sisters and stuff, but like just around other people I was always really shy. So I wrote about like how I slowly like gained my confidence as I grew up, and how I became like more outgoing, and I realized like how much more successful I could be than I ever thought. So I just wrote about like how my mindset changed, and how that mindset change really enabled me to be as successful as I could become. Because if you had like seen me in kindergarten, you would have never imagined me going to like a high school where I didn't know anyone, and had to like talk for a grade like in almost every class, in almost every discussion. So it was just like a really big change, and something that like really just reflects who I am. So that's what I wrote about my essay. Just some general advice I have. I think it's like important to be really genuine in your questions, because these people like, they know what they're doing, and like they're looking for genuine people, and I think that's something that's super important at Notre Dame. Almost everyone I've met here has like done such amazing things with their life, like to where like I look up to all of my peers, and like I just realized that they're such amazing people. So I think especially if you're applying to Notre Dame, like it's important to be genuine. Like you're not coming up with things like to be that perfect Notre Dame student, like you genuinely are that Notre Dame student. So I think it's important that you just like be genuine, especially across all your applications, because that's going to allow them to choose you if they think you're right for that school. And I think that really does help, because I mean, I didn't really know a lot about any of the cultures that were at the colleges that I applied to, and I think that like Notre Dame really like is the culture that I fit into the best. So I'm glad that they accepted me here, because I just think like this is where I was meant to be, and it's where it really worked out for me. So I think it's important that you're genuine in your answers to who you truly are, so that you can get accepted into a community that is the best fit for you. Also, as I said before, college applications are more of a holistic approach in most cases, because yeah, like test scores show that you can perform really well under pressure and that you can prepare well to do well in one instance, but your long-term GPA and your activities show that you can sustain success for a really long amount of time. So I think that's important to just showcase that also. And then leadership is so much more important than club involvement. And I feel like they really drill this into your head in high school. Like, don't be involved in everything. Like, just be involved in a couple things and like be a leader in those things, because that's where it's really going to matter most. So like if you have like 2 clubs that you really love and you're like president of both of them, that's going to get you so much farther than doing like 10 clubs that like you're just a general member of. Community service is also a huge thing at Notre Dame. Like I mentioned before, all of my peers have done like a really amazing job like at just doing everything in their life. Like everybody's so caring here and stuff like that. So if that's something that you're into and you're interested in Notre Dame, I think that's like where you would have a good fit. Also, they want to see that you're doing a rigorous class load, so they want to see that you're challenging yourself to the max at your school. So if your school offers AP courses, you should probably take those AP courses, and if it offers IB, you should probably join that IB program, because that's what's going to show that you're challenging yourself and you do like that challenge, especially if you want to get into a better school. Because I mean, like if you want to, better schools are obviously more challenging, so if you want to get into one of those, it's important to show that you can handle a challenge and you enjoy being challenged, because if not, then you won't enjoy going to a more rigorous school. Also, something that I didn't really do a good job of, as I had mentioned, like you should really look into the culture of that school and like look into their values. As I said before, I'm the oldest in my family and I didn't really know what I was doing, and my counselors in high school were like sort of helpful but not super helpful, like, so it was just a big time of confusion, and I was just kind of like I'm gonna make a video also where I explain like why I wanted to come to Notre Dame, so I'll go more into that then. But like basically I just like randomly chose schools that I thought were good, and that's how I ended up applying here. So I think it's important that you like actually look into the schools and see if you'll fit into their culture. I know that like a lot of other schools that I was looking at, like I looked into their schools and I was like, oh yeah, like that's me, that's my culture. But in like hindsight, I'm glad that I didn't go to those schools, because I think it would have just been like not that much of a community. It would have just been like kind of like really competitive people, and I've always been competitive, but also like I think Notre Dame does a good job of having like a healthy balance. Like people here are competitive, but like it's not so competitive that they're not going to help you if you need help. Like if you're not understanding a concept, they'll help you and like teach it to you, and also there's a million resources. But like just your average like classmate will help you by like teaching you a concept. If you don't understand it, they'll like help walk you through it and stuff like that usually. Like I know me and my friends sometimes, like in my IT class, if I didn't understand something, like she would literally meet up with me, so that even if she had the homework done already, so she could walk me through and like show me where I was making mistakes and stuff like that if it wasn't convenient for me to go to office hours. So I think that's just like really embodies the community at Notre Dame. And if you're interested in like seeing more, if you would like fit in here, I can give like my student perspective also in the video, where I'm gonna like say why I chose Notre Dame and like tell a little bit more about the culture in that. And then also just like, again, about the test, I think you should really look into your school and look into the major that you want to do, because I didn't even pick my major until I was like applying to college. And like some colleges, I was like, I'll just pick business, because business is very versatile. You can do almost anything with it, and it doesn't like necessarily tie you into business. Like I've always kind of wanted to be a lawyer, so I was like, I can take business and I can go be a lawyer, or I can take business and I can go to business, or I can take business and I can go do whatever with it, because like business is everywhere, you know? So I decided like that's the one I would choose, that's what I would do, because it's just like very versatile and you can, it doesn't really tie you down. But then if I was like looking at schools that didn't have business, I was like, oh, like maybe I'll do psychology. I'm in a psych class and I kind of like it, but like I'm not really a sciencey person, and like Like, we dissected like a lamb brain in my psych class, and I didn't enjoy that because I think that kind of stuff is gross. So I think it's important to like look into majors and like kind of decide what you want to do. Obviously you're not tied down. Like, when you're a senior in high school, you can still change your major. Like, you have a lot of time. But if you do want to go to a school like Notre Dame, I had to be accepted into the Mendoza College, and for my class, it was like less than 10% of the kids who applied to Notre Dame and applied to Mendoza were accepted. And then the stats for Notre Dame was also like 14% of people who applied my year, I think, got accepted into Notre Dame. So like, if you do want to do business, you have to think about those kind of things, because a lot of business schools, you have to apply directly to them and get accepted into them. And like, if you come to Notre Dame and you want to do business, there's a chance of getting accepted into the school later, but it is a chance, it's not a guarantee. So it is important to like look into the major that you want to do and like make sure that you can get into those programs. Also, just with AP tests, I think it's really helpful to take them, especially if you're going to a state school. If you are going, I know this for Texas, I don't really know for anywhere else, but if you are in Texas and you just want to go to a state school, you should do dual credit, because dual credit classes will get you college credit in Texas. And like, you don't have to take a test at the end of the year, and they're not as rigorous as like an AP course or an IB course. IB courses are really rigorous, but dual courses are usually on a 5.0 scale, but at least at my school they weren't as rigorous. It was almost like taking just a regular class, and you would get that 5.0 scale, and you also get in-state credit for it. So I think that's really worth it if you're in Texas and you want to do in-state and go to a state school. If not, I think APs are really helpful if you want to go to a state school, and also private universities, but again, like, I didn't really do that much, so I can't really speak to it. IB test, super helpful if you want to go to a state school. My friend's brother, he did IB at my school 2 years before me, and then he went to Texas Tech, and he got there as a sophomore just based off of his IB credit. So IB can be very helpful, but then once you get into like those private universities that have their core, that's when you get a little bit tied up with the test, so you have to just look into it more. I'm a business major. There aren't really that many tests for business majors that are like outside of business schools, like AP tests or IB tests, not really that many. Something that I would have done was take the econ test probably, and also maybe calc AP tests, but I mean, I didn't do those and it was fine. I just had to take calc and econ here, which honestly, I understood econ here better than I did in high school, so like, I actually learned something. So I think that's also like a trade-off you just have to look into. You just got to decide what you want to do. But yeah, so those are basically my stats from high school. That's my advice, some of my experience with Notre Dame. Obviously, I am not like an official at Notre Dame. I'm just a student. So anything I say in this video, like, don't quote me, because I can only speak from my experience, and I'm not an expert. So that's just what I did in high school, and what I did got me into Notre Dame. Might not get you into Notre Dame, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, please, and subscribe. Also, I'm going to be putting out more Notre Dame content probably soon. Well, obviously soon. I will be putting out more Notre Dame content. And I'll be putting out like a why I chose Notre Dame video also. I want to go film like in the library or something. I wanted to film this in the library. That's why I made this presentation, because I was supposed to go to the library with my friend to study, but like, we're all leaving for spring break tomorrow. So like, it's kind of hard because people need to like pack and stuff. I also wanted to go film a workout video, but like, someone was in the gym. Like, I'm just not gonna go try to film like a workout video when someone else is in there, because one, it's gonna be loud, and two, like, that's just awkward for me, you know? So yeah, I want to film with like more different backgrounds, but that'll happen like eventually, I promise. Okay, yeah, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.